"Don't embarrass us," my aunt said when I brought my boyfriend to dinner. So I stayed quiet, until her husband called him a slur, and my boyfriend stood up, clinked his glass, and told everyone what Uncle Greg's been doing on Grindr. When I say I was nervous, I mean I was physically sweating through my shirt before we even pulled into the driveway. It was just dinner. Just dinner with family. Except family, in this case, meant my Aunt Cheryl, who has spent her entire life treating shame like a religion, and Uncle Greg, whose voice could curdle milk. And now I was bringing Michael. Michael, 26, sweet, funny, unapologetically himself. My boyfriend of nearly a year. The first person I've ever loved without feeling like I had to shrink to fit into the shape someone else wanted. He wore this navy button-up, ironed twice, and practiced smiling in the car mirror because he wanted to make a good impression. "Your family doesn't have to like me," he said, reaching for my hand, "but I want them to see how much I love you." I wanted to believe that would be enough. I'm 23, for context. Grew up with a family that talks more about appearances than feelings. When I came out at 19, my mom said it was just a phase. When I started dating men openly, Aunt Cheryl stopped inviting me to her annual Christmas party. She calls it not wanting to make things uncomfortable. Translation: "Don't embarrass us." That's exactly what she said when I told her Michael was coming to dinner. "Just behave," she said over the phone. "We want to have a nice, normal evening. Don't embarrass us." I remember staring at my phone after she said it, like maybe it would blink into another reality. But no, that was the tone. Michael squeezed my hand before we walked in. "Hey, I'm here for you. No matter what." Dinner started stiff. The kind of stiffness you feel in your jaw because you're trying so hard not to say the wrong thing. Cheryl was playing hostess, all smiles and fake laughter. My cousin Katie was there with her boyfriend, the straight, blonde, finance major clone she brings to every family function, and nobody blinked when they kissed hello. But when Michael tried to put a hand on my back, Cheryl's smile twitched like it was trying to escape her face. We were halfway through the overcooked lasagna when Uncle Greg started drinking faster than usual. I'd seen it before. The shift, that slow unraveling from passive-aggressive to outright mean. It was when Michael said something about volunteering with an LQBT youth group that Greg made this noise, sort of a scoff wrapped in a laugh. And then he muttered, not even trying to whisper, "Figures. One of those fuck-ots." The room went silent. Cheryl didn't even look up from her plate. Michael blinked. Once, then calmly reached for his wine glass, stood up, clinked it, and with the most unnerving politeness I've ever heard, he said, "Since we're all being so honest tonight, I thought I'd let everyone know something fun about our dear Uncle Greg." I swear to God my blood turned to static. Greg's fork froze midair. Michael didn't yell, didn't stutter, just looked right at Greg and said, "You really should log out of Grindr when you use the bathroom at work, or at least not leave your phone unlocked." Kind of a rookie move. He took a sip of wine, smiled. "Oh, and Hungbear87, really, Greg? Bit on the nose." No one breathed. Cheryl looked like she'd just swallowed glass. Katie's boyfriend choked on his water. My mom dropped her fork. "And Uncle Greg?" he exploded. Greg's chair scraped back so violently it gouged the hardwood floor. His face was turning this violent shade of red, like a bruise in real time. "You little piece of shit," he snapped, lunging forward like he was about to throw the table over. Michael didn't move, just stood there, wineglass still half full, calm like he was narrating a podcast. Cheryl jumped up, knocking over her chair. "Greg, sit down," she hissed, voice razor-thin, but he wasn't hearing anything anymore. His eyes were locked on Michael like he wanted to rip his face off. "You come into my house and say that crap?" Greg barked. "You think I won't beat your fruity little ass right here in front of everyone?" My legs moved before I even knew I was standing. "Touch him," I said, voice shaking, and I swear to God, but Michael, still weirdly composed, cut in. "No need," he said. "I'm not scared of closeted cowards who hide behind Sunday dinner and Bud Light." Katie stood now too, pale and wide-eyed. Her boyfriend had this look like he wanted to vanish. My mom was covering her mouth, frozen. Cheryl's expression was pure calculation. She was scanning the room like a politician in crisis, deciding what would protect her reputation fastest. "What the hell are you even talking about?" Greg snapped, still red, but now there was something else in his face. Panic. "That's a damn lie." Michael tilted his head. "You really want to do this, Greg? Want me to read some of your messages out loud? Because I've got screenshots. The stuff you sent that man from your gym? About how you hate yourself every time you finish but can't stop? That's poetic, honestly. Tragic." The silence that followed was suffocating. Michael set his glass down with a soft clink. "I wasn't going to say anything, but you want to call me a slur to my face while you're jerking off to guys in secret? Nah, not tonight." And then he sat down, like it was over, like it was just a mic drop moment and he was moving on to dessert. But Greg couldn't, because men like Greg, they don't come undone quietly, they implode. He picked up the nearest object, a candlestick holder, I think, and flung it across the room. It missed Michael by about a foot and shattered against the china cabinet, glass everywhere. My mom screamed. Katie cried out. Cheryl yelled his name, but Greg kept going, knocking his own plate to the ground, stomping like a bull in a panic spiral. You think you're better than me? He yelled at Michael. You think you can come in here in front of my family? Not your family, I snapped. Not anymore. His head whipped toward me, and that was when I saw it. Just for a split second, the mask slip. The man who'd spent years cracking jokes about liberals and rainbow snowflakes and real men was standing there exposed. Not angry, not righteous, just afraid, and he hated it. Get out, I said, before you break something else. He looked at Cheryl like she was going to defend him. She didn't. Just stared at the broken glass. Frozen. Everyone saw. That silence was a funeral. He stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. And that should have been the end, right? But Cheryl, she didn't say thank you, or sorry, or anything that would make this less disgusting. Instead, she looked at me and said, you could have handled that privately, like she wasn't still trying to protect him, like I was the problem. That's when I realized I didn't just expose a secret. I cracked the foundation they'd built their whole fake image on, and it was all about to collapse. After Greg slammed the door, the air didn't settle. It curdled. No one moved. Michael quietly picked a shard of glass off the table and set it beside his plate like it was a napkin, then glanced at me with this tired, apologetic look that made my stomach twist. I should have said something earlier. Should have defended him sooner. Should have told Cheryl to shove her "don't embarrass us" down her plastic-throated hypocrisy. But I'd stayed quiet. Like I always did. Like I was taught. Now the whole illusion had shattered. Literally. And my family looked like strangers sitting in the wreckage of a dinner party that had turned into a demolition site. Katie spoke first. She stood there trembling, holding her wine glass with both hands. Wait, was he serious? Her voice cracked. He's been messaging men for months, Michael said calmly, not looking at her. Not just chatting, photos, meetings. Some of them married, some of them barely legal. Jesus, Katie muttered, sinking back into her chair. Cheryl suddenly sprang to life, grabbing a dish towel and sweeping up broken glass like that would clean the mess in the room. None of this needed to happen, she snapped. This didn't have to be a scene. You could have spoken to me privately. You mean lie for him, like you've been doing? I asked. Because that's what you were gonna do, right? Keep pretending? Keep inviting people over to sit around your little Sunday dinners and praise Greg's barbecue skills while he degrades my boyfriend at the table? She dropped the towel and straightened up. This isn't about that. This is about you escalating things. You could have protected your relationship without humiliating this family. Protecting our relationship is exactly what he did, I said. Greg humiliated himself. Michael just held up a mirror. Cheryl turned to Michael, voice trembling with controlled rage. You think this is brave? Exposing someone's private life to make a point? That's not brave. That's cruel. Michael stood again, slowly this time. You know what's cruel? He said, voice dangerously soft. Making someone feel like they have to keep their voice down at dinner because being loved openly is somehow embarrassing. I felt that line in my chest like a body blow. Michael looked at Cheryl, then at my mom, who still hadn't said a damn word, and then back to me. I'm going to wait in the car, he said gently. You take whatever time you need. And then he left. Just walked out the front door, calm and deliberate, like he hadn't just detonated every secret in the room. The silence stretched again until finally, my mom spoke. You need to apologize, she said to me. Quiet, cold. To your aunt. I laughed. I actually laughed. For what? For telling the truth? For ruining a family dinner? And that's when something in me broke. Something brittle that had been cracking since the second Cheryl called and told me not to embarrass them. I pushed my chair back and stood up. You know what's funny? I said. You've never asked about my life. Not once. You don't ask what Michael does, or how we met. You never even asked if I was happy. You just wanted me to blend in. Keep the photos clean. Smile in the Christmas cards. Let the adults say their little jokes and pretend they weren't cruel. Stop being dramatic, my mom said. I was quiet, I said. You trained me to be. You trained me to sit at tables like this and laugh at jokes that made me want to die. And now I finally stand up for someone I love, and I'm the problem? Cheryl looked away. My mom wouldn't meet my eyes, so I reached for my coat. You didn't lose a peaceful dinner, I said. You lost your masks. That's why you're mad. And I left. But I knew that wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. Greg wasn't going to let this go. And Cheryl? She was about to get mean. The texts started before I even got to the car. 3 missed calls from my mom. A group message from Cheryl that read, I hope you're proud of yourself. Greg's threatening to move out and I have a migraine. This is on you. Michael was sitting in the passenger seat, hands folded in his lap, staring out the windshield like he wasn't breathing. I slid in next to him and just sat there for a second. I'm sorry, I whispered. He turned slowly. For what? For having my back? For letting me be seen? His voice cracked on that last word. That undid me. I let them treat you like a side note. Michael shook his head. You were trying to survive it, babe. I get it. But I won't sit at another table where I'm expected to shrink. We didn't say anything for a while. Just drove, parked outside my apartment. I didn't cry until we got inside. I didn't go to work the next day. My phone blew up. Calls from my mom, a DM from Katie saying she was sorry, but Cheryl was really spiraling. And a long, seething text from Greg. It ended with, "You should be careful throwing accusations like that around. You think you know everything, but you don't." Classic closeted threat. Not denial. Not even denial, just control. Then came the calls to my job. Yeah, Greg went there. My boss pulled me into his office around lunch, said someone had called claiming I was leaking private family matters online and exposing people's personal sexual information, whatever the hell that meant. It was anonymous, of course, but I could practically hear Greg's raspy breath through the phone line. My boss, thankfully, is not a moron. He'd seen my work, knew my character, but he still had to document it in case anything escalated. That word again, escalated. That night, my apartment door got egged. I don't even live in some big city where that kind of crap blends in. This is a suburb. Neighbors talk. One of them, an older woman named Carol, knocked the next morning holding a Tupperware full of cookies. She'd seen a middle-aged man in a Ford with a lifted tailgate peel off around midnight. Greg's truck. "Are you okay, sweetie?" she asked. And I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream, because I'd spent most of my adult life just trying to belong, and now someone in my own family had turned on me so fast it made my skin feel inside out. I sat on the couch with Michael, staring at the broken shell of what had once been my understanding of family. I was too tired to cry anymore. Michael looked over, eyes dark and clear. "You don't owe them silence," he said. I nodded slowly. I had spent years protecting their image. Cheryl's PTA perfect facade, Greg's macho man ego, my mom's polite silence. I had eaten their casual cruelty like it was communion. But now they'd gone nuclear, and I had receipts. Update 1. All right. South. A lot has happened. First, thank you. I seriously didn't expect the response this got. I thought I'd post, cry into my cereal, and delete it in shame. But your comments? They gave me oxygen. Y'all had me laughing, crying, and fully rethinking everything I let slide for way too long. Special thanks to the person who said, "Your aunt wanted peace and quiet, but you gave her plot and consequence." I'm getting that tattooed on my soul. Second, let's talk about Katie. She called me the day after the dinner from hell, and not a, "Hey, how are you" call number. She sounded frantic, said she couldn't sleep, said things she saw growing up weren't adding up now, that Greg had always been weirdly intense about what she wore, that he once accidentally walked in on her changing when she was 14, that Cheryl brushed it off. I was stunned. She said she never told anyone, felt like she couldn't, but after seeing what Michael did, after realizing no one ever pushed back on Greg, she's done staying quiet, and she's not the only one. She told me something else. Greg's Grindr messages, the ones Michael referenced. Yeah, Katie saw those months ago. On a shared iPad Greg used to play poker. She took screenshots, sent them to Cheryl. Cheryl knew, and told her to delete them and never bring this up again. I was floored. So not only was Greg being vile, Cheryl covered for him. And now Katie's on my side. She sent me everything. Screenshots, voicemails, even an old letter from Cheryl that basically tells Katie to protect the family name over personal feelings. We're building a bonfire, y'all. Next post, I'll tell you exactly what we did with that evidence and how we delivered it to the one place Greg would never expect. Let's just say, the church potluck won't be the same. It started with a casserole. Not even kidding. Katie called on Sunday, 2 days after everything exploded, and said, "He's still going to the men's group at church like nothing happened." Cheryl brought her green bean casserole and smiled through the whole thing, like the past 48 hours were a scheduling error. That's when we knew. They were going to bury it. Cheryl was going to bake her way through the scandal. Greg would keep showing up in his stupid flannel and gripping other men's shoulders too hard while calling himself a man of God. And the church, the same place that taught me my love was a sin, they'd never even question it, unless we gave them something they couldn't ignore. So Katie came over. She brought a shoebox, because of course she did, and inside were printouts, screenshots, emails, even a handwritten note from Cheryl telling Katie to be mature and remember who pays your tuition after she caught Greg watching teen boys on TikTok and liking their thirst traps. My hands were shaking holding it. "This is enough," I said. Michael looked at us both. "So, how do we want to deliver it?" We sat there, planning, like a war room. 3 people, tired of being quiet, building something honest out of the wreckage. What we came up with? It was brutal and poetic. Monday night was the church's family fellowship night, potluck, testimonials, scripture readings. Greg was scheduled to speak on accountability. Yeah, accountability. You can't make this stuff up. So we printed the Grindr screenshots, not the explicit ones, just enough to show usernames, chats, timestamps, and Greg's very recognizable profile photo, shirtless in his garage. We also included Katie's screenshots of Cheryl's messages, her begging Katie to stay silent for the sake of appearances. We put them in sealed envelopes, each labeled, "To whom it may concern," regarding Greg and Cheryl, last name, and dropped off 27 copies at the church just before the potluck began. Pastors, deacons, elders, a few women who'd always called Michael brave in that thin, pitying way. Michael and I parked across the street and watched. At first, it was normal. People in church clothes hauling crockpots inside. Laughter. Then, one of the church secretaries opened an envelope. I saw her mouth the word "oh." She passed it to another woman, who passed it to her husband. And that's when the wave started. It spread like oil in water, small circles forming, conversations halting. The door to the fellowship hall opened, and Greg stepped out, smiling like a politician, holding a notepad. He never got to speak. One of the deacons, tall guy, always smelled like peppermint, intercepted him, whispered something, showed him a sheet of paper. Greg's smile dropped like a shot bird. He looked up, around, spotted Cheryl, who was frozen by the punch bowl. Her eyes darted. Her casserole sat abandoned on the table like a symbol of everything she'd tried to cover. Then, boom, yelling. Greg shoved the deacon's arm away. Cheryl tried to grab his sleeve, but he yanked free and stormed out the back door. Michael exhaled beside me. There it is. We didn't stay. We didn't need to. The truth was in the room now. And Greg? He couldn't run from it anymore. The fallout was immediate. By Tuesday morning, the group chat for the church's men's accountability circle was silent, which never happened. Normally, it was a daily storm of iron sharpens iron nonsense and passive-aggressive Bible quotes. But now, crickets. Wednesday, Cheryl posted a cryptic Facebook status. Sometimes the enemy is within your own walls. Pray for discernment. No likes, no comments. Just that little blue thumbs up from someone's aunt, who clearly didn't read it. Then Thursday rolled in like a wrecking ball. Katie called me from her dorm in a panic, voice shaking so hard I could barely understand her. Greg showed up to my campus, she said. He tried to get me to say I faked the screenshots. What? He said he'd tell people I photoshopped everything, that you and I were trying to destroy the family out of jealousy. I was already putting my shoes on. He was outside my dorm, she said, quieter now. Security made him leave after I threatened to call the cops. Michael heard the last part and muttered, "This guy is deranged." Katie wasn't safe. Not anymore. I called Cheryl. Don't ask me why. Maybe I still believed a tiny part of her could be a mother when it mattered. She picked up on the first ring. "You're tearing this family apart," she hissed. "Greg hasn't eaten in 2 days. He's getting death threats. Your husband tried to intimidate a college girl in public. He was trying to reason with her." Reason? Cheryl, he's a grown man parking outside her dorm and screaming about Photoshop. You should be calling a therapist, not me. She hung up. That was the moment it clicked for me. Not when the casserole got left behind. Not when the grinder screenshots got passed around. But right then, when Cheryl had the chance to be a parent, and she chose a lie. So I stopped playing nice. I sent a copy of the church envelope to Cheryl's work email. She's a high school administrator. All about moral leadership. Included a note. "I suggest you resign before the students start Googling your name." And yeah, I made sure the screenshots got to the school board too. Then I posted. Not the screenshots. Just the truth. A long, brutal post on Facebook. I wrote about the dinner, the slur, the cover-up, Greg's Grindr account, Cheryl's letters to Katie. I tagged nobody, but everyone knew. I said, "If you ever asked why I stayed quiet so long, this is why. If you ever wondered why I never brought Michael to family events, this is why." It took 20 minutes for the first comment to drop. By the end of the day, it had over 600. Some called me brave. Some called me cruel, but I didn't care anymore. I wasn't trying to win. I was making sure no one else sat through a dinner where love was something you had to apologize for. That night, someone keyed the side of my car. 4 deep scratches. But they missed the bumper, and taped to it, flapping in the wind, was a post-it. One word. Faggot. Michael peeled it off. I stood there, silent, while he crushed it in his fist. "They're losing," he said quietly. "That's why they're doing this." And in that moment, I knew he was right. We weren't in danger. We were finally winning. Update number 2. So, remember when I said Cheryl resigned? Yeah, that resignation letter didn't stay private for long. Someone, I swear it wasn't me, but I have a hunch it rhymes with Schmady, leaked it to the Maple Hollow Gazette, our local newspaper that usually covers bake sales and the occasional squirrel attack. But this made the front page. The headline? Local administrator resigns amid allegations of harassment cover-up. They quoted from the letter. She tried to spin it, of course. Said she was stepping down to focus on family healing and that recent attacks on her household had made continued service untenable. No mention of why the attacks happened. No mention of her husband's side hobby on Grindr. But the real kicker? She claimed the accusations had no merit. No merit? Girl, your man was out here playing DILF roulette with the entire Tri-County area, and you left digital breadcrumbs like it was a marketing campaign. Comments on the article were savage. One parent wrote, "So glad she won't be lecturing our kids about integrity anymore." Another said, "I guess her casserole isn't the only thing that's crusty." I choked. Greg, meanwhile, disappeared, deleted his socials, stopped going to church. Rumor is he's crashing with a buddy out near Lake Hensley, but someone spotted his truck at a Planet Fitness 20 miles away, so guess he's still lifting, just not his reputation. And us? We're good. Better than good. Michael and I booked a trip. Small cabin up north, just woods, wine, and 0 family dinners. Katie's in therapy now. Real therapy. She said she feels lighter. She's even thinking about going public, in her own words, to help other girls who had uncles like mine. To everyone who messaged me, shared their own family horror stories, sent kind words, offered legal advice, or just said, "Holy shit, thank you. I didn't think this story would be heard." Now it's not just mine. And to anyone reading this who's still sitting at that awful dinner table, biting your tongue for the sake of peace, burn the fucking table. Sometimes, the only way to make room for truth is to flip the whole damn thing over. Love loud, fight back, and never apologize for lighting a match where there's been darkness for too long. Stay safe, stay wild, stay free. Me. The first time I saw Cheryl after the resignation, she looked smaller. Not physically, but that presence she used to carry. Shoulders high, chin up, lips pursed like she was always one sentence away from correcting your posture. Gone. Hollowed out. Like someone had vacuum-sealed the arrogance out of her. It was at Trader Joe's, of all places. I turned the corner by the frozen meals and boom. There she was, staring at a box of cauliflower gnocchi like it might hold the answers to all her problems. She looked up. Our eyes met. And I swear to God the woman flinched. For a split second I felt sorry for her. This was someone who had once controlled entire rooms with a single eyebrow raise, and now she couldn't even make eye contact with the nephew she'd spent years shaming into silence. But then I remembered Katie crying on the phone, Michael standing alone in that car, the egg department, the key scratches, the slur taped to my bumper, so I walked right past her. Didn't say a word, didn't owe her one. Later that night, Katie texted me a screenshot of a message she got from Cheryl. It was one sentence. "If I apologize, can we start over?" Katie replied, "Apologize to yourself first, then maybe we'll talk." I wanted to clap. Instead, I just told her I was proud. We were both changing. And you know what? It felt good. It felt earned. But of course, Greg couldn't stay silent. The next morning, someone slid a manila envelope under my apartment door. No return address. Just a single name written across the front in block letters. Michael? I opened it. Inside was a printed-out thread of old social media posts. Michael's old Tumblr blog. Tweets from 2014. Stuff like, "I hate small towns. Christians are cowards. Straight people exhaust me." All taken out of context, most from when he was a teenager trying to survive a place that hated him. Taped to the back was a note. Typed, "Still think your boyfriend's so holy." I sat on the floor, staring at it. Michael came home a few minutes later and found me holding it. He read everything, sighed, and sat next to me. "That's all they have left," he said. "Old quotes. Half-truths. They're trying to drag me down to their level." I looked at him. Really looked. At this man who had stood by me through all of it, who never once asked me to choose between him and my family, because he knew they were never really family to begin with. "They're still scared," I said. Michael nodded. "Good." And then he took the papers, walked to the kitchen, and burned them over the sink. No ceremony, no anger, just fire and finality. Because when the truth is on your side, you don't need to fight dirty. You just need to keep standing. The last time I saw Greg, he didn't recognize me. I was walking out of a coffee shop, arms full with 2 lattes and a paper bag of pastries, Michael's favorite, the raspberry ones with the powdered sugar that gets everywhere, when I spotted him across the parking lot. He was slouched in the bed of his truck, smoking something that wasn't a cigarette, wearing a hoodie I'd never seen before. Older, grayer. He looked like a man who'd aged a decade in a month. His eyes passed right over me and kept going. No rage, no flash of recognition, just blank. And I stood there, in the crisp morning sun, and realized I wasn't scared anymore. He couldn't touch me, not with slurs, not with rumors, not with closets or casseroles or church politics, not anymore. Because the thing about fear is, it's only useful if you keep it fed. And I had stopped feeding mine the moment Michael clinked that glass and told the truth. We didn't get justice, exactly. Not the kind with courtroom drama or headlines, but we got something better. We got freedom. Cheryl's social circle imploded. She left the PTA, deleted her Instagram, and now shops 2 towns over. Katie got a scholarship. Turns out, when you tell your story and back it up with documentation, people pay attention, especially donors who were sick of performative morality. Michael and I, We moved, not far, but far enough that the air feels different, cleaner, quieter. We're building a garden behind our new place. Tomatoes, lavender, the kind of flowers that keep growing even when storms roll through. Sometimes Michael reads to me while I weed. Sometimes we just sit there, the silence full of peace instead of tension. I still get the occasional anonymous message, little reminders that hate doesn't die quietly, but I don't answer anymore. Let them scream into the void. We're not there to hear it. And for the first time in my life, I understand what real family feels like. It's not blood. It's the people who stand with you when the world tries to shame you into silence. It's the man who clinks his glass and tells the room what nobody else would dare say. It's the cousin who says, enough, and the neighbor who brings cookies when your car gets egged, and the strangers online who say, we believe you. It's truth, love, and the fire you stop apologizing for. We're okay now. We're better than okay. We're finally, beautifully free.